Well, 2020 is wrapping up, and even though people are very derisive of people who posted 2020 vision, in a way 2020 vision is, we did have it, because apocalyptic means lifting of the veil. And so in a lot of ways, we did have a vision of whether it was from spending alone time and going down rabbit holes, or whether it was spending alone time and being with our thoughts for the first time in a while and kind of out of that kind of constant distraction world. And then we had to kind of face things, whether it was on an individual level or a collective level. This was definitely a year of 2020 vision, of clarity. And the kind of clarity I'm going to focus on today is going to be more personal, and it's going to be pretty basic. It's going to be like, narcissists. And I know everybody talks about narcissists. It's so overwrought, it's so overused. And I agree, the term is overused, and often people are projecting their narcissism on other people. Absolutely. But in this case, the person I'm talking about, he's levels of emotionally abusive, whether it's hurt people, or whether it's sociopath or sexually compulsive, sexual addict. There's a lot of words you could call him, because basically the profile is he is a very charming, grandiose guy who had been abused as a kid and now is very much has a harem of women. He says he cannot go a day without having sex, and that does not mean masturbation. That means women, and he likes the novelty of different women. So, and he also triangulates. He does that thing where he will talk to other women about the other women he's seeing, and then kind of have a manipulative dynamic of triangulating where he can control women's emotional reactions because they get jealous of the other women. Like, he does those kinds of tricks. So I'd say he's some level of emotionally abusive or emotionally manipulative, and I think the term narcissist is a good word for him based on his behaviors, because he always has to have that supply, and if he doesn't, he truly is like a vampire that has to feed off of attention, especially sexual attention. Anyway, that's this guy. I met him years ago. He came back into my life just briefly, just like a little flicker, like a little 2020 revelatory nod, which was, and it was in April, it was right when we were all like, what is going on in the world? We're locked down, we're in quarantine, and it was very uncertain. Anyway, he came in, and as I've said, he's very much sexually, he's had 100 so partners. Probably by now he's probably had 200. And I'm the opposite. I've always been scared of sex. I was scared of sex for years, and it's just kind of like the opposites attract. So I liked what he was. I wanted a little bit of what he had, that sexual confidence. Even though it's a mask, it was very appealing to me. Anyway, so he came back, and what I noticed about him for the first time is I had always given him such authority on how he knows about sex, because he has it all the time. And I realized that, and I also thought that the personal thing we went through, which did not involve sex, but it involved talking about sex, I realized that he was, he kind of just does that nagging, that kind of insult thing, but he doesn't even know, he kind of does it to see what works. And this was really revelatory for me. So a narcissist is, it's typically associated with being self-preoccupied. And I kind of thought, well, yeah, he's self-preoccupied, but then he also knows and sees how unlovable I am. I guess the word would be, it's not really unlovable, but that's kind of just that person that kind of insults you in the right way. So he would insult me because I was scared to have sex with him, and that I didn't want to send nudes, all that kind of stuff. And so when he was trying to insult me this time around, he didn't even remember that that was the basic profile, the basic poke. And he just kind of was going for these kind of run-of-the-mill generic female insults, like he brought up weight, slut-shaming, and what was the third one? I think it was something with babies. I don't know. Anyway, I was noticing how he's kind of feeling out which ones would be a thing that provoked me or something. And I have the opposite line of attack. I actually respond more if you call me an uptight prude. That's the angle you go for if you want to wound me. And that's what he used to know. And I realized, oh, you're not even really like a good con man. You're not even like good at manipulation because you don't even remember that. And that just made me see how little, like that, the insults that had wounded me were really not a big deal because they were really just him going for whatever he could to poke me. Then he figured it out. And then now he didn't even remember. So what seemed like such an insult and a personal thing, I suddenly realized as just a mere manipulative tactic. It's like if somebody, there was just a level of detachment I suddenly had to, oh, I don't have to identify with how he made me feel. Like I made this meaning out of that he was an authority on sex and I was like a prude. That was the story I told myself. And then when I realized he came back and was just kind of thinking, oh, and here's the thing, is what he said was to me in the new wave of trying to insult me was, oh, I see a lot of pictures with guys, and he was trying to act like I was a slut, which is just, I don't know, it's like, it's almost like I wish you'd research better. It's like, man, you could really go for the jugular here, but I'm really like, I'm like a celibate. Like, if anything, I'm more worried sometimes about, not being sexual enough still. And so anyway, he went for that. And then I just suddenly had this epiphany of seeing behind the curtain with him. Because whoever, he just sees people as, what's a good wound? I'm going to poke it, see if it sticks, and bam. It's not as if he actually even, when he did look at me back in the day, he wasn't necessarily judging me, That was really a moment of, wow, he doesn't care enough to judge, and narcissists are not powerful. Like, they're not. They really have to bring you down to bring themselves up. And it really is obvious in their nature of how they just try to insult in whatever way they can. Anyway, and his return was, of course, I'm probably leaving out, I think I have enough context for you to get it. It's a pretty simple point. And then I think, there could be more I say, but for me that was actually really freeing to realize that he didn't have really the power to be this authority on sex that could insult me. And, I also, didn't have to identify with whatever he did say. Like, for instance, we got into a silly little fight about dick pics. And I said, the thing about women is we see a dick pic and we are just amused. We're queasy maybe, amused. We're not aroused by it, I said it in a nice way though. I said it in a more, that's actually the thing we joke about in girls' locker rooms, I said. And then, of course, he was, of course, like the typical thing of, well, I know women that, of course, want it. And I was like, yeah, there probably is, but I think a lot of those women, too, might even be catering to what they think you think. Because women in general, we're not visually aroused. Like, we are, if we are more aroused by seeing a guy's face and hearing him talk, a voice. But even that, it's more how we get aroused even in general. We're not porn consumers, we're erotica consumers. So, it's pretty basic. I don't think it's like, maybe it is wrong, but I don't know why do you want to argue with a girl about what girls want? I don't know. Then he did the typical thing of making it like, well, you don't know. And I'm like, I do know, because I am a woman and I have women friends. I have so many of all different ages, backgrounds, and we talk about this. We talk about it candidly. A woman is not going to tell a man who thinks a certain way the truth. Like, they're going to cater. I go along, especially with him, because he's a very dominant, charming guy. So you do believe whatever his view of the world. It's pretty easy to take on when you're with him, because he's very confident in it. Anyway, so this little dick pic, between the dick pic fight and the what's it called? What's the other thing? Oh, slut shaming me when we should be prude shaming me. These were really revelatory in ways for me, because I had given him so much power, and he's not an authority on what sex is. He's not an authority on what makes me horny. He might be an authority even on those other women that like dick pics, but he's not an authority on me. And if he's going to flirt with me, it's like, well, aren't you curious about how I feel about this? Is it just you telling me what I should be, and then I going along with what your view of sex is? And that's the thing, is I really realized my power didn't have to be in what he thought. It was what I thought. And I realized that in many ways. Like, the abusive relationship is such a wake-up call. Even if I wasn't even in a relationship with him per se. It was really just a series of conversations, like, because he was kind of in pursuit of me way back in the day, but it was long distance, so we were in different states. So it was just talking, and then I met up with him, and then it was some, I guess you'd call a fling, but I didn't, Anyway, the point is you kind of realize, it's really nice when you realize that you know who you are and what you want, and another person's not an authority, and they're not an authority on you. They can have an opinion about you, they can have an idea that you're this. It doesn't make it true. It's just very empowering, and for me, that's kind of what 2020 is about, because I actually am going to bring this into a more collective level. We're in a collective abusive relationship where we're thinking that even the term trust the experts is it's this thing that says, come into my movie is correct. And just like that narcissist, he always is kind of like, come into my movie, I know everything, I'm right. And it's easy to go along with that and think that they're right, but you've got to actually realize that you know what's right for you. And you know if something is off. And of course, there's studies done on authority that if an authority figure tells you to do something, people will keep doing it even if it goes against their brain or their moral compass. And we learn that in school. We really learn how to be reflexively obedient. And so I'm just thinking that if you have narcissists in your life, and if they they flicker in, really pay attention. Pay attention to how they manipulate you. Pay attention to what kind of insults they give you. And pay attention to just what kind of way, how they react to your detachment or apathy. They usually don't want to suck anymore. They're like, they don't want, they're vampires. They're not going to suck on blood itself. Well, that's done. So, they're not powerful, and they're kind of pathetic. They have to feed off of people that, I even told this narcissist, I'm like, I think you got to go younger. I mean, I'm not like naive Pollyanna anymore. I mean, I was in my early 20s when I was talking to you. I mean, I'm now in my 30s, so I can't, this whole game is stupid and tired. And if you're not even curious sometimes it's fun to fight about sex and then have sex, but he wasn't even doing that in a way that was fun. It was just very domineering. It's like, okay, so you aren't interested in what arouses women. You're only interested in what you think arouses women. Okay, that's a narcissist, sorry. Anyway.